Hello, everybody. This is Young Penitent, and welcome to my bachelor pad. Now, I have gone live with no warning. Usually, it's a little better to schedule a stream beforehand because that gives people time to it gives them a little warning and they can be there ahead of time and they know that I'm going to be there. So sometimes you get a few more live viewers if you schedule it ahead of time, but this is my style lately. I have just been doing unscheduled, unpremeditated streams. Now, please, I am using a new setup today. I have a new microphone. I'm going to talk about that here shortly. Can somebody give me a thumbs up or something in the chat just so I know you can hear me clearly? I just want to know if it's sounding okay. And people are filtering in. So anybody, please give me a thumbs up if we are good. Okay, somebody says sounds good. Chase White says sounds good. So here is my new setup. I'll just show it to you quickly. I got the Shure SM7B. This was recommended to me by my friend Seraphim after I had done an interview with him when we did the interview for the St. George. It was the St. George, some sort of organization. I can't remember. The organization is now defunct. I had to delete the interview. But he recommended this setup to me, and I've got now higher quality sound, so you can hear you can hear fully the soothing sound of the human voice. It will capture all the warmth, Before I was using this is what I've been using since I started streaming. This is the Blue Yeti. This is the starter microphone. And I bought this off of probably Craigslist for $50, and it served me well. It's a USB microphone. But I have now upgraded to the Shure SM7B XLR. So the XLR is the kind of cord that you use, and it is of a higher quality. So this is the step up. I was told that this microphone is the microphone that is basically the standard. So you'll see a lot of YouTubers and podcasters, they basically the go-to microphone is the Shure. And I have it set up so that it is wired through a cloud lifter, which I was also told by Seraphim is what you want to do. And then from the cloud lifter to the interface, and that goes into the back of my computer. So we are stepping it up in here today. And I am also kind of revealing my living space to you. Usually I have the icon corner in the background, but I'm just too lazy to set it up fully. So I'm just going ahead with the blurred background because I have a very messy bachelor pad. I am a lifelong bachelor, and I don't expect that to change, honestly. And so I very rarely have people over to my house. Maybe once a year, I'll have some dinner guests, and I'll clean up. And maybe if I bring my priest over to bless the house, so maybe twice a year, I will clean up my house and make it presentable. But otherwise, it's going to be blurred because there are every available counter space is just covered with junk. So Welcome to the stream. We'll see how far we go tonight. I have a couple news stories to break down for you. I'm going to talk about my recent trip to the monastery. We had a brotherhood, so I'm going to do a review of that. We had a brotherhood retreat, and that's the twice annual retreat of the Brotherhood of St. John the Wonder Worker. So we'll do a brief rundown of that. And, if I feel like it, I might pack my pipe and smoke it, but if we want to go long, but I don't know if I'm going to do that. I've been kind of trying to not smoke on camera because I don't want to influence the young ortho bros, the young men who might be looking up to me for an example. And, honestly, yeah, you don't need to be smoking. Church saints, they generally discourage it. I use it, for medicinal reasons. There are some beneficial uses for tobacco, I believe, and I kind of need it because my brain is being rotted by the psychotropic medicine I take. And so for all you young men getting diagnosed with schizophrenia out there, stay away from that psychotropic medicine because it's going to destroy your brain and you might end up relying on nicotine to be able to concentrate. Smudgy Donkey with the comment, Saint Nikolai Corps, and he is referring to Saint Nikolai Velimirovich, I believe, because he was a saint that smoked. And there were a couple exceptional cases of saints who smoked. Saint Nikolai, Tsar Martyr Nicholas. There's a couple, and smoking is also, you have to remember, a New World discovery. Tobacco was discovered in the New World. It was not something that the Romans would have had. So you wouldn't have had tobacco until Columbus sailed the ocean blue. So let's see, what shall I start with tonight? Oh, well, while people are still filtering in, I wanted to let's do a little bit of spiritual food. Let's get that off the table because this is the Orthodox channel, and I figured I might give a little bit of spiritual food for folks because people like that sometimes. And then we'll go on to less edifying things. So let's see. The idea I wanted to go over tonight was baptism by blood. So apparently there were it's an ongoing thing that throughout history of Christendom, Christians are martyred. They are killed for their faith. People who reject God hate Christians because we are an affront to them, because they see what we have and they are envious and they don't want to obey Christ the way that we have, because we believe Jesus Christ is God and we confess him. And those who do not, they are severely lacking in their lives. I feel bad for them. But sometimes we get killed for our faith, and you have to be prepared for that eventual outcome. Now, there is a class of saint who have been baptized by blood, and these are saints, actual saints in the calendar that we celebrate every year. And they never had a chance to be baptized in water. And Christ says in the scriptures, it says that you have to be, to enter the kingdom of heaven, you have to be baptized. Okay, so if you haven't been baptized, make that a top priority in your life. That should be your top priority, is to get baptized, because you need to be baptized to enter the kingdom of heaven. But there are examples of people throughout the history of the church, of saints who were martyred, who were killed for faith in Christ before they were baptized. And the church considers this baptism by blood. And you don't have to take my word for it. I'm going to bring up a quote from St. John Chrysostom, the trusty golden mouth, and he says, "If someone is not baptized in water, he is not deprived of the kingdom, provided he is baptized in his own blood, which also serves as baptism. The martyrs shed their blood, and this becomes for them the baptism they had not received." So usually, if you read the lives of the saints, maybe I would suggest reading the prologue, daily scripture, a daily reading. And in the prologue, they will have short lives of saints. And frequently, it's not even an uncommon thing. Usually what would happen in the history of the church, this is back when Christians were getting killed, emperors were not Christian yet, and in the early years of the church, and they would bring forth the martyr who was a Christian, and they say, throw incense or you to the idols, or we'll kill you. And so what would happen was the people who were often it was like a guard or someone who was standing by watching these martyrs' valiant feat, how they were filled with joy as they were being tortured and ripped apart. And they were so impressed by the witness of these martyrs that they were inspired to become Christians. And they would very often say, they would confess Christ right then and there. And they say, I want to die too. I want to be a Christian. I am a Christian. They would proclaim this in front of the emperor and the guards as they were killing Christians. And the emperor would say, you're going to die too. And then they never got baptized, but they would just immediately get killed, tortured, put to death, and they became saints. We have, if you wanted a specific example, there is the story during Great Lent. Every year we have the commemoration of the 40 martyrs of Sebaste. And these 40 martyrs, this was when St. Constantine became the emperor. And I can I'll pull up something to look at. But St. Constantine had become an emperor, and here's the icon. And so you see the 40 martyrs here. When St. Constantine made Christianity legal, there was still his co-ruler, Licinius, it says here, who was not with it. He didn't go along with it, and he started persecuting Christians. And so there were these 40 warriors in Armenia, and they were confessing Christ, and there were various tortures. And one of these 40 soldiers, he couldn't take it. He was weak, and so they had them out in this cold water, and they put a bathhouse on the side of the lake. And this one pitiful example of a Christian, he apostatized, and he went and he fled. And he lost his crown, it says, and he didn't want to endure the cold. We do not want to copy that guy. But a soldier, a guard who is not a Christian, saw this, and it says that he confessed. He said, I too am a Christian. And he joined the martyrs. Standing in the water, he prayed, Lord God, I believe in you, and whom these soldiers believe, add me to their number and make me worthy to suffer with your servants. Then a 40th crown appeared over his head. And so he went on to die with the rest of the 40 martyrs, and they're commemorated every year during Great Lent. And so this is the concept of baptism by blood. So if you don't have a chance, who knows? Maybe we will have a chance to die martyrs here. It hasn't been happening in America lately. We haven't been getting killed for being Christians. It does happen in Africa, the Middle East, over there. Just recently I saw someone crucified. There was a picture posted on social media, and a Christian was crucified for his being a Christian. So that is our spiritual lesson for today. The concept of baptism by blood. Next on the agenda, I suppose I am going to recount my trip to the monastery. So this was last Thursday. Took a couple of days off from work. I invited a couple young men from the parish to come up. We got a blessing from our priest, and we drove up to the monastery. The travel was safe and uneventful, and we arrived in good time. When we got there, we found a bunch of young men. These are retreats that happen at All-Merciful Saviour, which is where Abbot Trifon is the abbot. And these retreats happen twice a year, and all the brothers, they gather. And so this is just something that Abbot Trifon started many years ago. And I have a dedicated stream to this topic when we go over the history and what happens there. But I'll just give the brief rundown. We had over 20 people. So the Brotherhood has kind of gone through some waves of growth and dying down and becoming more, more people coming. At the very beginning, there was a kind of an impulse, this strong impulse, and there were large gatherings for the first few years, and it kind of died down a little bit for a few years, but now it's kind of been roaring back. And maybe this is partly due to all the young men who are flooding into the church in the last few years. So the way it works is members of the Brotherhood, they join, they come to a retreat, and if they want to keep coming, they come back, and they often will recruit members that they know from their parish. So people were coming and recruiting other young men from their parish, and so some come back, some return, some don't. And so we had over 20 people there, and it's quite a crowd. And some of the guys from, like, I've been coming, I was the oldest guy there, so they gave me a bed and in the cabin. And some of the guys from years back, so you get to know them. And most of the people are new. Some people only come once or twice, but it's kind of difficult because something that's difficult about it, especially if you're not like a super social kind of person, is you're thrown together with a group of people who you've never met before. And it's kind of difficult because you have to get to know these people. You only have a few days together. So it can be challenging for some young men if they're not super outgoing. Luckily, there's a couple guys who are kind of outspoken, and they can kind of lead the way, and kind of show the way for the others. I did a stream from the monastery. I did a live stream, so you could go and check that out live from Bashan Island. I did that last Friday, a week ago. And so that can kind of show you a little bit of what was going down. But the retreat is basically the retreat is what happens there is that you go to the services, you share meals in the trapeza with the monks. Abbot Trifon gives a few talks. We're allowed to have one drink, so people can bring some beer if they want. And then in the evening, every night, we built a fire and would stand around the fire for like an hour or two, or maybe even later if you were up to it. And so we built a fire and stand around the fire and, just talk. And all the guys are kind of one mind. They tend to be conservative, I would even say right-wing type guys. So if you're leftoid, you might feel uncomfortable there. You might not. I don't know if you would want to come necessarily. You could try. Just don't try to push your ideology on us. I don't think you're going to get anywhere. But and then so there's some bonding going on, standing around a fire. And by Sunday, when the thing ends, you feel like you kind of got to know these guys, and then you disperse. So you finally get to know these guys, and then then it ends. So I don't know. I have at times thought I'm getting a little too old for this. So, but I'm actually also starting to feel like endeared by some of these it's endearing, these young men to me. They're endearing themselves to me. So I'm kind of getting hooked on these brotherhood retreats, and it's also just an easy way for me to just go to the monastery, because I like being at the monastery. I actually prefer going by myself or with one other guy, so it's a quiet weekend, a quiet few nights, and I can pray and be by myself and have some time to myself. That's my preferred method of making a pilgrimage to All-Merciful Saviour Monastery. But this is good too, because there's a date chosen and I can just show up. I don't have to, schedule ahead of time, and it's just easier, to make arrangements. So that was my trip last week, and I can show you guys this is the short that I made. I didn't ask permission from anybody, but I'm going to play it for you guys.
I knight you a knight of the Salish Sea. Arise, Sir Knight.
So that is the formal induction into the Brotherhood, and the method of induction has actually changed over the years. At first, he didn't have a sword yet, and so he would just anoint you with holy oil that he had from the Ivron Myrrh streaming icon, actually. But someone at some point gave him a sword, and so he started doing this knighting ceremony with the sword. And so it's kind of goofy, whatever. But that's kind of how Abbot Trifon is. So, we go along. He's the leader, he's the leader of the group. And it's, you can just tell that he loves you, Abbot Trifon, when you go there, and he loves us. We know that he loves us. It's just easy you just know it. It's like you can just feel it from it. Okay, so that was that segment. Moving on. Next, what do I have next? Here, let's see. Okay. What shall I do next? Let's do this. I like this. So I like this setup because you guys aren't going to hear my mouse going on the key, on the moving around and clicking, because on my old microphone, it would pick up everything because it was sitting on the table, and you would hear me clicking, and it bothered me. I want to do a good job with my streams. I want it to be high quality. Is that real or a joke? The Knights, Stephen asks. It's kind of both. It's kind of a joke, but it's also real. Like, that's how I don't know. You're a knight now, you're one of us, and you only do that once. You don't do it every time. So the new guys, they get inducted. And I don't know how real it is, but it's real to us, I guess. So let's go to this news that happened today. This is kind of fun. We had President Zelensky meet with President Trump, and so let me pause this for a second. This is interesting because I saw this morning, and I was at work with in the shop, sitting around taking a break with the guys, and I said, why? I asked, all the people I work with are leftists. I live in Corvallis. Everyone's a leftist almost. It's like I'm surrounded by leftists. And even in a blue collar job with blue collar workers, even they are leftists. And I'm just kind of being like, kind of feeling him out, you know. And I say, why is he always dressed? Why is he not wearing a suit? Every president wears a suit. And I asked just to see what their response would be. You know, I'm not trying to get into an argument or anything. And I'll finish quickly. Answer this question. Do you get a certificate? No, you don't have to get inducted again. You're just a knight now. You can just be an official member of the Brotherhood. So, you know, if you wanted to come, Stephen, you'd be welcome to come, I'm sure. You know, you can join, there's ways you could just reach out to the monastery if you wanted to know about future retreats, and they can keep you informed, add you to the Telegram group. So anyhow, this morning, I asked my coworkers, I said, why is he wearing this sweatshirt? Why doesn't he wear a suit? And the answer that they said was, oh, because he's at war and they don't have money for a suit. Money for a suit. Okay, so you got $300 billion for weapons, but you can't buy, a $200 suit. Come on, what kind of answer is that? And so I said, oh yeah, so he doesn't have money for a suit, eh? How about all that money that goes up his nose? Didn't you know that he's a cocaine addict? And they didn't know that, you know, but Zelensky apparently is a cocaine addict. And we know this because when he comes up on stage, or, you know, there's telltale signs when someone comes up and they're going like this, like that, you know, when they come up to an interview or to do something in public. All the cocaine addicts are doing that because they just snorted coke before they go on stage, because they need to get that boost, you know, that confidence. I never took cocaine, but apparently it's like you're riding high, you know. And you can almost tell, you look at this interview and it's like the way that he's acting, he's so confident in himself. He's talking to Trump, big bad Trump, and he's like trying to bully Trump around. And we're going to watch this. It's only a 2-minute clip. The whole thing was longer, but this is just a clip that I saved from Twitter. He's like trying to bully Trump, and Trump is the alpha in any room. You know, there's no one more alpha than Trump. So let's just watch it. It's only 2 minutes. I don't like necessarily, you know, turning my stream over to some I don't want it to be too much of this kind of thing, but it's only 2 minutes, so I think we can put up with this here for a second.
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you are not
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come to the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring people.
Did you hear that? He says "suka," which is like, that's like, I guess in Ukrainian. I shouldn't have said that, but it's like he's cursing our vice president on television. It's a curse word. It's the B word. I believe is what he's saying. He just did that on camera. He's out, you know, this guy's out of his head. He's coked up.
You bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military?
We have problems.
And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future.
That's a threat. You will feel it in the future. And Trump, he picks up on it right away. He's sharp. He's an old man, but he's still sharp.
God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
that.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly
this.
what
I'm not
You're
dictating.
in no position dictate what we're going to feel.
You
We're
will-
going to feel very
you will
good.
feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and
telling
very
you,
strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed
From the
yourself
very-
to be in a
from
very
the very
bad position,
beginning
and
of
he
the
happens
war.
to be right
From
about
the
it.
very beginning of the war.
You're not
Mr.
in a
Brown,
good position.
I
You don't
was
have
in-
the cards right now. With us, you start
I'm
having
not playing
cards. But
cards.
right now, you
I'm
don't. Yeah,
very
you're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War
What do you-
III.
what do you
You're
think about-
gambling with
what do you
World
think
War
about?
III. And
You-
what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country.
I'm
That's
with
back
all
to you.
respect to your
Far
country.
more than a lot of people said
I'm wearing
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once?
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for
What-
the United
what
States
you're
of
speaking
America
about?
and the president who's trying to save your country.
So Trump didn't let him get a word in edgewise. He was just, over speaking over him. He acted like he didn't even hear what he said. And, that was a spanking. Trump was giving Zelensky a spanking, and it's great to see. Because he's been getting paraded around, every Western country is like welcoming him like a war hero. He's like this fake president, stolen election. It's everybody's just been showering him with money, so he's used to, he feels like he can walk around and do what he wants. But Trump is like basically asserting himself, and it says no more. So that was today's news, and that's basically my breakdown of it. Trump, he's trying to negotiate peace. This is what we want. We want end to the war, this fratricidal war between Ukraine and Russia. And I think everybody should want peace. But Zelensky wants to keep on fighting. That's what he seems to be wanting. Steven is saying that Zelensky knows Trump outside of presidency. He's a billionaire himself, involved in Florida real estate, and that's why the lack of respect. He knows Trump. That's news to me. So that's interesting. So we have this war in Ukraine, and this is very dirty fighting. There's another news article that came out just today, I believe, and there was a terrorist attack. So I'm going to cover this next. This is the next news article. And this is from orthochristian.com. And this is a very widely read news site, like probably the most well-known Christian news site. And in Russian, it's pravoslavy.ru. So it's a popular site in Russia. But this news article came out today that there was a Ukrainian terrorist attack against Metropolitan Tikhon Shevkunov of Crimea, and it was prevented. So here's Metropolitan Tikhon, and he is probably the most well-known or one of the most well-known churchmen in Russia. And he was at the Pskov Caves Monastery, and he wrote this book, Everyday Saints. And this, come on. There. So this is a book that came out a couple years ago, and everybody was reading it. And this is like an easy read too. It's a thick book, but like a couple years ago, it was read very widely in Russia. And and also in English in America, they translate it. It's a very readable translation. And I would highly recommend you go get this book and you read it. And it's like stories from the Scoff Caves and it talked about, saintly people who aren't necessarily canonized, but, the church has God, all of the saints are known to God. And there are many saints that are not canonized. And this book talks about those kind of people who are just everyday saints that the church canonizes saints for a reason. Usually it's because there's something that we can learn from a particular person. There's some lesson, there's some reason, that God glorifies saints. But there are many saints unknown to us, and this book kind of talks about those kind of people. And so he has also made Metropolitan Tikhon has also made several documentaries. You could look it up on YouTube if you want. There's one documentary he made about the Scoff Caves Monastery, and also another one about it was about Byzantium, the fall of Byzantium. It was kind of a historical documentary. But let's go back to this article and see what happens here. So it was prevented. So they detected this plot, and the FSB, they found there was an attack that was planned by Ukrainian special services. So this is dirty. They're going after a beloved churchman. Everyone in Russia, this would have hurt. Russians would have felt the hurt from this if it had been successful. And by the way, he's also known to be the confessor to President Vladimir Putin. So this is like they were like going for a kill, for the heart here, the jugular. And he was recruited. They recruited this guy who was a graduate of Stratensky Theological Seminary. And I guess there was another man who was recruited. And so they found a homemade explosive device and counterfeit passports. So they were going to try to commit this murder and then flee. And you can kind of see they show a video of the I'll show the video of their arrest. It kind of looks staged to me, but these were both Russian Orthodox people who were recruited, and they were said, if you don't do this, we're going to kill your family. One was a reader in a Moscow church. So here's a short video of them detaining the we'll watch it. Kind of looks staged, the video, but here they are arresting him. He doesn't fight. He's like just standing there. He's, usually there's a little bit of histrionics. So and here's the other guy arrested, lying on the floor. So these guys are they call this the perp walk, right? Perpetrator, like where they kind of do that in public for you. I think that's what it's called, something like that. So this is terrible. This is bad news. This is, dirty. This is dirty. This is Ukrainians playing dirty. They know they're losing. They're losing the war. They're about to they're going to have to come to the table basically and negotiate. They're not getting any more weapons from us, Hope, Trump is doing, this is like why I wanted Trump in, because I wanted this war to end, and that Biden regime, you know, they were happy to be killing, to have all this bloodshed. You know, they were thrilled, um, because apparently they felt it was good for United States interests. Honestly, you know, weaken Russia, with the proxy war. You know, good for our which is good for our interests in the region, you know, from a geopolitical standpoint. But that's the way they see it. I don't necessarily agree with that. The BJJ Clinic with a comment. It's very clear the West hates the Orthodox. There is no Ukraine, really. It's just NATO. It's a proxy war. NATO needs to dissolve. NATO needs to resolve. So I'm not a you know, I'm not always, I'm not really necessarily geopolitically savvy. I mean, my focus that's actually is kind of, I try to my focus in my life is my spiritual life. So this is kind of going out of my wheelhouse, but I think people like to see some of this news articles broken down, and I'll try to do some of these streams, you know, and give once in a while, and just kind of people like to see the news breakdown in case they missed it, you know, they can get it here. So that is what I have prepared for tonight. And I think, you know, 40 minutes is probably good enough. I don't know what else was there. Is there anything else? I think that's it. I'm gonna pack my pipe. I don't think I'm gonna sit around here and smoke the pipe in front of y'all, but I'm gonna pack it. This is my I have my tobacco blend that I blended together myself. I bought some vanilla. It's got some vanilla, some burley, and what is the other one? It's got 3 different kinds. See ya. Good night, moldy apple. I think I'm just gonna pack this pipe and maybe light it. I'll narrate this to you. I don't think I'm gonna sit around and smoke it for y'all, but I'm just gonna sit here and pack the pipe and light it for you. And I think I've kind of found that I like vanilla, like a little bit of light vanilla flavor. That's kind of what I've decided I want. You know, I mean, I've tested a couple different. At this point in time, I like a little bit of vanilla flavoring to my tobacco. Thanks for stopping in, Moldy. So, and you know, I've discovered that I actually kind of like even smoking in, like, it's been cold lately, you know. I mean, now the weather's changed and it turned, and spring has sprung. But like a couple weeks ago, it was in the 20 degrees here, which is like about as cold as it gets. Sometimes it gets into the teens in Corvallis, but a couple weeks ago it was in the 20s, and that's about as cold as it gets here, you know. Nicotine. Oh, here's a. Yeah, this is why I don't like to smoke on camera. Nicotine is more poisonous than arsenicum, strychnine, or cyanide. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. I mean, the BJJ clinic says it has neuroprotective effects, and that's why I use it. I was talking about this earlier, but I have this. You know, I might just start doing this off camera from now on, just because I don't want to offend anybody. But it's got neuroprotective effects. Is why I use it. I have I got this medicine I take, and you know, I got to kind of counteract it. So I think that's going to be my stream for the night. I've lit my pipe. I've broken down the news for you. I've given you a little bit of spiritual nourishment towards the beginning. If you're just coming in, you could maybe rewind it. And so that's my stream for tonight. Thank you all for joining me. And I got trying to get a couple interviews in the works, and I'll be trying to stream more often. But I thank y'all for joining me, and we'll catch you all in the next one. Young Penitents.